Why the left opposes self-defense. Welcome to Truth Duel Official. In this video, you will learn about the Second Amendment and its history with self-defense. You'll want to stick around till the end of this video to learn how to avoid being a radical centrist. But first, I am your host, Misinformation. If you like this channel, make sure to subscribe to receive more great Second Amendment discussions, misinformation analysis, and other sentiments and ramblings that please and amuse us, and become a truth dueler, because only you can slay misinformation at its source. Get our app on truthduel.com. Karl Rose Jr. is a 39-year-old man from West Virginia. He's also accused of second-degree murder. You know, the usual. Rose was at an Exxon gas station when a man and his wife pulled up in a car. The man had been beating his wife in the car and now continued the beating at the gas station. Rose intervened, shooting and killing him. Rose would have had a hard time in court if a woman hadn't called 911, telling dispatchers that, quote, that guy who shot him, I know he was trying to protect that lady because the other man was hitting her. End quote. Rose's case invokes castle law, which refers to, quote, individuals having the right to use reasonable force to protect themselves, end quote. In West Virginia, this includes protecting another person, such as Rose's case. However, some poor triggered souls just can't stand self-defense laws, which are often subject to intense legal scrutiny in the United States. So many triggered souls. The most infamous legal case is District of Columbia versus Heller. It was judged by an incredibly important court. No, not Judge Judy. It was the Supreme Court. In 2008, the Supreme Court looked at a case brought to them by police officer Dick Anthony Heller. Heller applied to keep a handgun in his home for self-defense, and his application was denied. Heller said that the District of Columbia was violating his Second Amendment rights, and the Supreme Court agreed with him 5-4. But what if Heller lost the case? How would he defend his home without a handgun? The British have an answer to that question, and it's called reasonable force. Reasonable force is simple. If you don't booby-trap your house like Kevin McAllister, and you don't curb stomp an intruder while he's down, you're free to attack him with any object on your property. It's simple in theory, but in reality, reasonable force, or proportional response, is a trick of the left to cast victims as aggressors in matters of self-defense, and not just in your home, but in international affairs too. But that's another story. Just ask Munir Hussain. British businessman Munir Hussain was jailed for protecting his family. Hussain returned home with his family when 3 intruders hiding inside tied the family up. Hussain escaped and attacked one burglar with a cricket bat, injuring the man's brain. In court, Hussain received a harsher sentence than the burglar for this incident. This makes sense, because obviously the criminal is the real victim in this situation. Hussain needs to check his law-abiding privilege. Because of his actions, now the poor burglar is too hurt to burgle ever again. This is an absolute travesty, an injustice against humanity. Maybe Hussain should have offered the intruder a cup of tea first, to be polite. Maybe ask him how his day was, and if he remembered to call his mother. To be a really good host, he could even ask these burglars which of his family members they'd like to murder first, or if they'd like to take the jewelry. Maybe he could entice them with the flat screen in the living room. You know, just to make sure the court doesn't jail him for a disproportionate response.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
Let's see if we have any luck with self-defense in the Great White North.
Prepare yourselves. We're about to enter French Canada.
French Canada?
There's no Canada like French Canada. It's the best Canada in the land. The other Canada is hardly Canada. If you lived here for a day, you'd understand.
In 2019, Canada's House of Commons released a report on rural crime. Witnesses described waiting a long time for police to show up in rural areas, which can stretch from hours to even days. In a shocking surprise twist, the Liberals and Conservatives disagreed on the best way to move forward with this dilemma. Who could have guessed? The Liberals discussed community watch groups, but ultimately emphasized the importance of robust victim support and police intervention over personal action. The Conservatives responded with, quote, "The Liberal report is an insult to all Canadians," end quote. Oof, the Liberals are going to need robust victim support to deal with that burn. The Conservatives called on the government to clarify self-defense laws, since the ambiguity of these laws often punished rural Canadians defending their homes. Liberals this, Conservatives that. I just want a grill, for God's sake. Surely, there's got to be a middle-of-the-road, radically centrist approach. Well, law professor Michael McConnell put forth a theory allowing urban and rural areas to decide their own gun regulations. This idea is known as firearm localism. Urban areas could implement stricter regulation to protect citizens from gun crime, and rural areas could allow for more lax regulation in response to longer police response times. If law was a family, this policy would be the middle child. Poor, ignored middle child. Our Truth Duel investigative reporters did a little archaeological digging, and they found an interesting piece of firearm localism history. During the push westward, towns such as Dodge City, Kansas, and Tombstone, Arizona had stricter laws than the surrounding locale. Even during the cowboy era, people were required to check their guns at the city limits. That's right, I bet you never thought cowboys lived in little hippie communes, surrendering their weapons and drinking kombucha at the saloon. What do you think about firearm localism? Is it a good compromise, or is it a lukewarm attempt to bridge the gap between Liberals and Conservatives? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Speaking of Liberals and Conservatives, they've been the focus of the firearm debate. However, if you go far left enough, you find enough supporters for the Second Amendment that it begins to look like the right. The left and right may not agree on much, but they can unite over their dislike of centrists. Misinformation wishes you well and reminds you to tap the burglar gently with your cricket bat. P.S. Are Liberals buying more firearms?
Meet the Liberal Gun Club. Yes, you heard me right. Liberal Gun Club.
Until next time, make sure to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and become a Truth Dueler, or the government will take your guns.